What is up, guys? Welcome back to CageChat MMA. We're here, of course, on a UFC 258 preview. Kamaru Usman is back, and he's up against former teammate in Gilbert Burns, and he's going to have a very tough night ahead of him, I think. I think this has got the same sort of feeling as it did against Colby Covington back at UFC 246, albeit under completely different circumstances. Still at 246. Usman and Colby Covington hated each other. They probably still hate each other, although after going for a war like that, there probably is a little bit more respect between the two. But tonight, you've got two former teammates, Burns and, of course, Usman, trained together. They put hours and hours and hours together in the gym, round after round. But tonight, it comes down to 25 minutes to see who the best is at the welterweight division. Of course, Usman coming in, he's defended his belt twice against Colby, and, of course, Masvidal since beating Tyron Woodley for the belt. He's looked phenomenal in both fights. He completely dominated Jorge Masvidal, a fight that was, made on 6 days' notice for both competitors. So, Masvidal has got his reasons why he didn't win the fight. Obviously, he took it on 6 days' notice, not a full camp. But again, Usman was, preparing for Gilbert Burns rather than Jorge Masvidal, which is two very different styles. So, his fight his fight plan had to be, changed for a different opponent. Now, Burns was supposed to be happening in December, of course, but that fight didn't take place due to COVID, I believe. So we're here now in February with Usman, full camp, both seemingly full of health as well. So I think this one's going to be a cracking one. I think it does go to 5 rounds. Whether we see a finish in that 5th round, I'm not too sure, but it depends. Both of them didn't want to back down from that stare down yesterday in the face-offs to the point where, Dana White pretty much, manhandled them to face forward for the photo opportunities and that. So both of these know what the other's going to bring. Both of them have been in that situation plenty of times. And obviously, we haven't seen any footage to determine who has almost been the better of the two in the gym sessions, of course. Neither of these two have come out pretty well. Actually, back in September, it was almost like it was a 50-50. He's won some, I've won some. And Burns came out with a quite poignant quote this week as well, saying, Usman looks to dominate, I look to finish. And you can see his points, especially when he gave Damian Maia his first TKO or knockout loss inside 10 years. He looked great against Tyron Woodley. Did Burns, Usman looked phenomenal against Colby Covington, but that was a fight that was made out of purely bad blood. And I think we see the same with that tonight. I think there's going to be a more controlled, a more calm Usman, but I do think we see the best of both of these two tonight. And it's just who comes out the stronger, whether there's a piece or a flurry of shots that, maybe have culminated before in the gym sessions those two have had, and maybe it knocks the confidence down a bit, or grows the confidence of the fighter that's thrown it. For example, if Usman, gets the grappling advantages, and if Burns, has lost those advantages in the gym before, maybe that's where the tide turns, and vice versa for Burns, of course. But again, a phenomenal main event. This card has been overshadowed by 257, with it being a Conor card, and obviously next month's card, or the first card of next month, because we've got two at 259, obviously having 3 title fights on it. So this one does feel a bit shortchanged, but again, the main event, because Kamaru Usman is a star. I know a lot of people dislike him because of his method of winning. He's not the most, when it comes to trash talking, not the most brash. He chooses what he says, and he's quite smart with what he says. He's not someone who's just going to throw out, random predictions here and there. He's not going to do a Conor McGregor and grind someone down prior to the fight. He's someone who very much lets his fight into the talking, and he talks, very loud once he's in that cage. He's phenomenal. And I think that is mirrored by the fact that tonight he can overtake George St. Pierre's record of 13 wins from active fighter, which is phenomenal. Because obviously, when you do look at the greatest all-time talk for welterweight, GSP is certainly number one. Then you look at your Woodleys, then you look at your Lawlers down below that. But Kamaru Usman is slowly creeping up there, and a win tonight certainly probably puts him on level with Woodley as a welterweight champion. Obviously, Woodley had that, he beat Maia, he beat Wonderboy after a second attempt, of course, and the way he won the title against Robbie Lawler. Albeit it was a flash knockout, but Usman obviously dominated Woodley over 5 rounds. So it depends on how you sort of, compare those two victories. Is a domination over 5 rounds more impressive than a very flash knockout? Who knows? It depends on which side of the fan base you are, whether you like those more grinding results or, you come purely to see the knockout wins. Like personally, for me, I think the McGregor's win over Alvarez is much more impressive than his win over Aldo. Albeit Aldo's one of broke records, of course. So yes, I do think, Usman's 17-1 up against 19-3. I do feel for Gilbert Burns at the moment. His main coach, Henry Hoof, of course, who was at Chandler's debut, isn't in the corner tonight because of his affliction with both competitors in tonight's main event. And I do feel it's a bit harsh because obviously Gilbert Burns is the one paying for the coaching at the moment. Obviously, Usman's gone over to Trevor Whitman and Justin Gage. Could be interesting to see how that has developed, because they did look good in the first fight, but again, they've had 6 months extra to prepare for this fight. Usman either said with BT, Gaethje broke his nose 2 weeks before that fight with Masvidal. But it does feel a bit weird. Obviously, you've got Vicente Luque now in the corner of Gilbert Burns tonight. How that's going to work out, I think, Burns is the veteran now. He's had 22 professional fights going into his 23rd, so who's in his corner is probably not going to be too detrimental to his performance tonight. But again, I do feel it's a little bit shortchanged on his side, the fact that his head coach has chosen not to be here tonight. Now I'm sure we'll see Trevor Whitman in the corner of Usman tonight, and he's looked phenomenal. He was the coach of the year, I believe, last year, or he should have been anyway if he didn't win that award because of his speech to Justin Gaethje in that third round interval against Tony Ferguson. But yes, as you can see, I'm looking at his topology here for Usman. It was meant to happen on the 11th of July, which was obviously 2:51, then the 12th of December, but we're here now, and we'll have a quick look at the table, of course. And as mentioned, 6 versus 5'10". Burns is quite the shorter of the two, and I didn't think he was that short. He looked pretty identical in that face-off that they had yesterday at the weigh-ins. Both came in on weight at 170, of course, and then obviously Usman with a huge reach advantage there at 6 inches, or 5 inches, sorry. And then an inch leg reach advantage. So it's going to be interesting how this fight's dictated, because Burns does have that sort of Woodley-esque explosion in him where he can, flurry forward, get an overhand right or an overhand left, get a knockout, but equally he can go for the takedown and mix it up on the ground very nicely. And Usman is someone who, if he gets, 2 inches away from the cage, he's gonna push you up there and grind you down. He's gonna take you down. He's gonna stomp on your feet, make your feet so your movement's restricted later on in the fight. And equally, it could turn out like the Colby Covington fight did with both of them, just down the bank. Obviously, that fight was expecting 2 wrestlers to come out, and we ended up getting pretty much a kickboxing bout. That was one for the ages, I think. Second fight of a fight of the year, only to Adesanya and Gastelum, fights on that card. So yes, it is a weird one, but yes, I do think it's hard to look over Usman at the moment. He does look in phenomenal shape, but we have seen it where it's just the fighter's time, and Gilbert Burns is 34 years of age. Kamaru Usman's 33, so he has got a little bit of time on his side, and it does feel like it could be a change on the guard moment. And especially, as mentioned, that those sessions in the gym are so important, because obviously whoever had the upper hand, one of these two is going to know who had the upper hand in the gym, more times than not. So this is how that transitions into the cage. But I think we're in for a 5-round war personally. Or, it's one of them. It could be a 5-round war. It could be a 5-round gritty, dominating win there for Kamaru Usman. We see that, and still. But either way, the normal fight. And yeah, my prediction is that it goes 5 rounds. And I do think we see an Usman decision here. But again, 4th round TKO for Usman is also something that I could foresee happening. And that moves us on nicely to co-main event, which of course the future is back with Maycee Barber up against Alexa Grasso. Obviously, Maycee Barber's not fought in just over a year now after that ACL tear back at 2006 against Roxanne Modafferi. Despite the ACL tear that she suffered in the first round, of course, she continued that fight to lose by decision. So it's showing, someone who's only 22, a lot of heart, a lot of grit to continue that fight and could continue progressing. And obviously, she suffered her first professional loss, which again, against someone like Roxanne Modafferi, is no mean feat. Modafferi is one of the staple pins of that division at the moment. But yes, she's got a very, very tough game opponent, Alexa Grasso. Obviously, she's moved up to flyweight from being a former strawweight. She's in her 2nd fight tonight, 4th flyweight, and she's up against obviously Maycee Barber, who's coming into this, but she looks good in her flyweight debut against Kim, of course. she's not had the greatest of luck. She's 3 for 3 in the last 6 fights, which is almost cut worthy, you could say. But she seems to have found her home. She's had 5 cancelled fights in the last two and a bit years, which is very disappointing. 2 against Marina Rodriguez, Angela Hill before that, and then Claudia Gadelha and Shi Young Kim. Although that doesn't seem it was her fault. I think it's COVID-related issues, that one. At least if you got a fight postponed in 2020, it's usually those sort of circumstances, and that those aren't circumstances that can be punished too much, you could say. But yes, it's interesting. She's only 27 herself. She's coming into the prime of her career, and you see a lot of strawweights at the moment moving over to flyweight, especially strawweights that maybe are close or just within that top 15 who consider themselves having success, because the flyweight division isn't the most stacked division. It's got some good names in there, but obviously Valentina Shevchenko, so far ahead, Jessica Andrade, former strawweight champion, now the number 1 contender at flyweight. You got the Cynthia Calvillo having success in that division, and Alexa Grasso is on the same path, and she wins now. She's in the top 10 of the flyweight rankings, obviously taken over from Maycee Barber. Albeit that won't be an easy win. And obviously, look at the tape, of course, 8-1 against 12-3. Both of them pretty much identical in height. Well, they are identical in height. 1 inch reach advantage there for Alexa Grasso, and half an inch less in the leg reach for Grasso too. But again, it's going to be interesting to see how Barber returns. She looked in phenomenal shape in the Embedded series when she was taking going to do her weigh-in. She looked, very strong, very like she doesn't look like she's been out that long. She's been able to recover her body. She's in a good mental state, it seems. It's just whether maybe she's a little bit gun shy because of that ACL injury. You don't want it to be repeated. But obviously, she's taken a year out, so she's obviously let it heal phenomenally well, or as well as it can be. And it's not like a Tony Ferguson who took 4, 5, 6 months tops to get over an ACL tear, to get back in the cage against Anthony Pettis, and look phenomenal doing so. It's been a full year now. But it's going to be interesting. I do think Alexa Grasso is one to watch in this division. And obviously, she's coming off the back of a good decision win. If they go the distance, they usually go in her favor. She's got 2 decision wins, but a unanimous and 1 split decision win against Randa Marcos. So yes, if it goes a full 15 minutes, I'd be expecting Alexa Grasso win. And again, we'll take a look, of course, at the rankings. And as you see, we've got Barber in 10th position there. You've got Valentina Shevchenko killing it at the top of the division, probably up against Jessica Andrade next. But you can climb that division pretty quickly. Joanne Calder would beat Jessica Rai, of course, who got beaten by Jennifer Maia. So it is a roundabout almost. Anyone can be anyone in this division until you get to the upper echelon in a champion that is Shevchenko. No one seems to be able to beat her at the moment. But again, we've seen many times when we've got a dominant champ, the rest of the division rises up to the champ. They might have to beat each other a few times, but eventually one almost diamond comes out of the rough and upsets the apple cart, almost like Holly Holm versus Ronda Rousey, Amanda Nunes against Miesha Tate, you could say. And they've gone to dominate, obviously, whereas Namajunas against Yoni and Jay. She's someone who had to rise up for the division, had suffered adversity, but eventually became champion and took over the dominant champion. Henry Cejudo is one of those people as well, against Demetrius Johnson, of course. So yes, it's going to be interesting to see. Maycee Barber still on the hunt. She's only got 330 days to become the youngest UFC champion of all time. So that is her goal. But I think she's almost missed the boat. Especially it's happened a year missed out of her career. She'd beaten Roxanne Modafferi healthily. She would have got 2-3 more fights last year, and probably you're looking at her going into a title fight this year. But I think that's been pushed back a year. So we're looking at a 24, 25-year-old getting a title opportunity, which again, still phenomenally, talented and very well worked for, but very well done. So yes, let us know your prediction for this in the comments down below. Let us know your prediction down for the main event as well. Kamaru Usman, Gilbert Burns could be hashtag and new, or it could be hashtag and still. Are we going to see, a fight of the year contender? We've seen so many this year. We've seen upsets this year, as well you could say, with Dustin Poirier, Conor McGregor. Could we see another one tonight? It's been a phenomenal start to the year for UFC and the MMA as a whole, and we are given another treat tonight. But yes, I'm going to go with an Alexa. This is a tough one to predict. I think I'm just going to edge it to Alexa Grasso, I think she's coming in here, and I think she will be just about to get the upper hand. I think it does go to full distance, but yes, I do think Alexa Grasso comes out victorious on this one, and we see Maycee Barber take a second consecutive defeat. But that's just my prediction. Now moving on to Kelvin Gastelum versus Ian Heinisch. Of course, these two are in a bit of a sticky situation in the middleweight division. We've got one in 9th and one in 15th of this very stacked division at the moment. Obviously, Adesanya at the helm, and Adesanya obviously beat Gastelum, who was supposed to fight for the title just 2 years ago. And it's phenomenally how quickly he's fallen and how quickly paths can change. So obviously, he was supposed to fight Whittaker almost 2 years ago to the day, and he could have beat Whittaker, become undisputed champion. But unfortunately, due to the injury of Whittaker, that fight got cancelled and fought Adesanya then for the interim title a couple months later. And of course, Adesanya won that. But since then, he's been on a slippery slope with 3 losses. Well, that was the first of 3 losses in a row, having lost to Darren Till and Jack Hermanson. And Jack Hermanson loss was the most devastating of the lot, because it was so quickly a 1 minute 18 heel hook from Hermanson, the Joker, of course. But obviously, that was a split decision loss to Darren Till. Many thought that was a bit kind on Gastelum. Many thought actually, Calvin Gastelum had won that fight. It was one of those split decisions where you could see it being given for both sides. And obviously, Adesanya, 2 rounds apiece going to that 5th round, and that's when the newly crowned champ, really took over that fight. Ian Heinisch, though, he's not had a great year himself. He's had a couple of fights cancelled against Brendan Allen. Before that, he beat John Mearshart back in June, but he was on 2 losses as well against Mario Madov and, of course, Derek Brunson. 2 decision losses as well. So again, not the most sort of painful losses to have on your record either. But before that, he was on a 5-fight win streak, looking phenomenally well. And he's coming in tonight. He looks good. You can see him on the Embedded series, which is always fantastic on fight week. Especially for pay-per-view. I wish they did them for some of the bigger, almost fight weeks or fight night cards. Sometimes you just need that extra content. But again, a staple hold for any fight week coming into a pay-per-view. But again, looking at the Taylor tape, 6-6, 14-3. Both of these now probably considering that they're chunk category now. They've been there for so long. Both done 5-6 years inside the UFC, and look, phenomenally well. Actually, I say that. Ian Heinisch came in 2018, but it feels like he's been there a lot longer. He's fought quite consistently on that basis. But yes, Gastelum, of course, is a staple holder in the welterweight. Now middleweight division is a staple holder in the UFC. But yes, 5-9 versus 5-11, half an inch reach advantage there for Heinisch. And again, 1.5 inch leg reach advantage there for Heinisch as well. And if Gastelum loses, it does put him in a very sticky situation, that then will be 4 losses in a row. And that is cuttable sort of territory, isn't it? I think he's in a very sticky situation. He's definitely, you see him at weigh-ins, and with all due respect to him, he should be fighting at welterweight. He's someone who's almost got lost in that, almost like Johnny Hendricks did after that title fight against GSP. He never really found his form again. And maybe we're seeing the same, with Kelvin Gastelum, maybe on a lesser sort of situation. But since the Adesanya fight, that could have made him or break him. And I think it might have broken him. But if he gets a win tonight, gets back in the win, gets a very successful win, not a split decision win, he gets a 30-27 or a finish, then he's back and everyone's good for it, because he's still at number 9. He's still got fights. You could rerun that Darren Till fight. You could rerun Jack Hermanson if you wanted to. But if you want to play off the narrative that it was a lucky heel hook, you could say. But again, we look at the middleweight rankings right now. Give me 2 seconds. But obviously, you've got Darren Till ahead of him, who's on a couple of losses himself now. He's got, of course, you've got Marlon Vettori in there, who's now in the top 5. You've got Derek Brunson, Uriah Hall. Kevin Holland, Kelvin Gastelum would be a good fight, although Kevin Holland's obviously already got a fight booked against Brunson. You've got Jared Cannonier, Paulo Costa, who's fighting Whittaker. Jared Cannonier, Kelvin Gastelum gets a win tonight. You see Gastelum, Cannonier being made. You can also see Gastelum versus Vettori being made as well. But yes, if he loses tonight, he's slipping down that, further down that top 15, and you're looking at the Chris Weidmans of this division as well. Maybe Luke Rockhold, if you want to make a super fight, if Rockhold wants to come back, although I don't think many want to see him come back because of the amount of damage he's taken throughout his career. So I do think, for prediction-wise, I'd go with I'll go with Kelvin Gastelum. I think he gets back in the win column, and I think we see him take a unanimous decision win. I do think, well, I was going to say this one is going to be fight tonight, but I do think Ricky Simone and Brian Kelleher is going to take that sort of bonus. But again, if we see a good enough performance there from Gastelum, we could walk away with $80,000 in his pocket, an extra $80,000 in his pocket at least. But again, Kelvin Gastelum needs to get back in the win column. If he loses tonight, he could see himself cut come the end of the week or a mutual termination of his contract. Obviously, there are spaces over at PFL and Bellator, which he could still very much have a lot of success in. And that moves on nicely to Julian Marquez against Maki Pitolo. I think it's Pitolo actually against Julian Marquez, who was kind enough to give away copies of UFC 4, which is starting to become a good game now. Obviously, it had a sticky patch coming in, but obviously they brought out new fighters into their roster, and it's slowly getting better. But tonight's fight is a good one. It's a bit of the weird one on the main card. I think this one is the one that sticks out as maybe, with all due respect to them, a fight that should be on the prelims, of course. But both of these two are going to bring it. This one's probably guaranteed a finish at least. They do both, love a good finish, whether on the winning side or losing side. I don't see this one going the distance. Maki Pitolo's coming off 3 losses out of his last 4. He lost to him Kasangane. He got guillotine choked by Darren Stewart, who beat Charles Bird, and then lost to Callum Potter before that. So he's not in the best of situations at the moment, carrying a 13-7 record, whereas Julian Marquez 7-2. He's the prospect coming to this one, you could say. He is coming off the back of a split decision loss against Alessio Di Chirico. That was 2018, so he's not fought in 3 years, but again, he's beat Darren Stewart, beat Phil Hall, beat Matt Hamill. So he's looking in a good spot, and he's, looking to get back in that win column. He did have a fight cancelled, I just seen at the back end of last year against Safarov. That's quite a mouthful, isn't it? That was a cancelled bout, but he's back in there tonight, back in the cage. And to take a look at the tail tape, of course, 13-7, as mentioned, 7-2, 6-2. Their mark is actually huge in this now middleweight division, of course. I think he's moved down from that for a couple of years now. He made weight successfully. As did Pitolo, both of them identical reach and obviously 2-inch leg reach advantage there for Marquez. So I do think Marquez gets the win here tonight, and I do think that is the fight, maybe the fight to watch. But I think if you're looking at any card for any fight on this card for a finish, I think that would be the one to go for personally. Now, fight of the night for me is probably going to go to Ricky Simone, and Brian Kelleher. These two have been trying to get this fight booked for what feels like months now, going back and forth on social media, whether it's 35 or a catch rate of 140, but it has been made at 145 at featherweight, of course. And these two are going to look, they're going to bring us a phenomenal fight. As we mentioned, both of them going back and forth on social media, trying to, get this fight made. Both of them have been given different opponents or had to pull out due to injury or COVID-related issues. And finally, this fight was meant to happen twice already. Last year and on the 16th of January in that Max Holloway card, but again, both cancelled bouts. Since then, of course, Ricky Simone beat Gaetano Perello on that Wednesday card that we had, of course, in January. He's on a 2-fight win streak at the moment after beating Ray Borg before he lost to Rafael Uriah Faber, of course. But he's on a good hype train at the moment, as is Brian Kelleher, who's 22-11. He did beat Ray Rodriguez by a guillotine choke. In September last year, he lost to Cody Starman in a very close fight. He was on a 2-fight win streak then before that against Hunter Serrano O'Day Osborne, who got a fantastic win, didn't he, last week? Let's not forget that. He is someone who wins 2 and then loses 1. So, I think it's going to be close on the fact it's at 145. How do they do at that weight class with an extra 10 pounds on them as well? I think this one does get me excited. I'm glad it got promoted up to the main card of the pay-per-view, because it was originally in the early prelims, which is a bit harsh on the two. They have brought a good fight, and they have built this one quite nicely. And it's unfortunate it happened to the cost of Jarrell Miller, who's no longer fighting on this card. Of course, that fight did get cancelled. He was obviously meant to face Bobby Green, of course, who was taken to hospital, I think, because of weight cutting issues on Friday morning. And we have just lost Jillian Robertson and Miranda Maverick as well. Jillian Robertson also falling ill, not able to compete, although it seemed to be not due to COVID-related issues, which is good to hear. Or, I say good to hear, it might be worse to hear, because obviously, if it's serious, obviously, Could have go back to Robert Whittaker. He had a hernia on the day of the fight, and was unable to compete and took 7 months out of the cage. So let's hope all the best to Julian Robertson and for Bobby Green too. But yes, it's a fantastic card. The prelims, if you look at the prelims, Diego Lima's fighting tonight against Bilal Muhammad. Of course, Douglas Lima's younger brother. Of course, got Anthony Hernandez there, of course, against Rodolfo Vieira. You got Poliana Viana versus Mallory Martin, on Andre Ugo versus Chris Gutierrez, and Gabe Green versus Lidit Prowl. And I think it's getting started underway now, whether they pushed it back half an hour just because of that cancellation of the fight. That was opening up the card, of course. Unfortunately, we lost Chris Weidman versus Uriah Hall this card as well, with Weidman testing positive, but it's been pushed back now. It's been rescheduled, I think, for April, or it might be on the UFC 260 card, actually. But actually, let's not mention the of course, Khamzat Chimaev, Leon Edwards news. He's not fighting now on March 15th. Khamzat Chimaev hadn't fallen or still feeling the effects of that positive COVID test and suffering from the coronavirus. He seems to be in a pretty bad way at the moment, and Dana White's getting him some medical help. We're flying him out, I believe, to America, getting him looked after properly. But some of the things that I've read and that's been going around, social media, has been quite scary with him, with the effects that he's had. And hopefully he gets better. But Leon Edwards has come out there, almost a victorious one here, of course. He's looking to be fighting to Colby Covington now, which opens up many questions about what happens with Jorge Masvidal now, because obviously many people thought Masvidal and Colby Covington were fighting. Leon Edwards was looking at Nate Diaz. He was looking at Masvidal himself, because going back to the 3 pieces and a soda incident. But Leon Edwards seemed to come out well here. I think Dana White's impressed that he took that fight with Khamzat on 3 different occasions. I think you saw it yesterday in that little Q&A session that he did. That Dana White admitted it was almost time to look up for Leon Edwards rather than look down below him. Many people thought he might get Wonder Boy or Michael Chiesa coming off an impressive win against Neil Magny. Obviously, got Woodley there, but he's fighting Luke, of course. So it was tough to make. And the Nate Diaz fight would have made sense because Nate Diaz is coming back. But I think personally, if you're the UFC now, what you do personally as I'd say you make Nate Diaz and Masvidal for the Ultimate Fighter, put a BMFL title on the line, and rerun that fight and add a little bit of spice to it with the Ultimate Fighter series. I think that's the perfect way to do it. And then put Colby Covington versus Leon Edwards with the winner facing Usman or Burns tonight. Although I see if Burns wins tonight, maybe you get an instant rematch for Usman. I think it deserves an instant rematch, but obviously that's dependent on performance. Obviously, we want to see a rerun of Usman and Covington, and also Usman and Edwards, who deserves a title shot after being on an 8-fight win streak, but he could get a little bit of Bret Hart screw job, as could Charles Oliveira in the lightweight division. Both of them are on the same path now. Very impressive win streaks, but you got the star of that names potentially just try and override that with business. But I'm going to leave that there, guys. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. Make sure to hit that follow button if you're watching on Facebook or Twitch. Enjoy the fights, of course, and we'll be here tomorrow for the review, of course. So yes, make sure to hit that subscribe. Make sure to follow the socials as well at CageChat MMA, and I'll see you tomorrow.